So we're going to continue looking at ratios this lesson. Now, what I've decided to do for Friday's lesson is I've actually put together a bit of a test related to percentages and ratios. Now, you're not going to have to do it under test conditions. It's pretty much just going to be a piece of work that you can work through with any notes you want. You can do it in your own time. It doesn't have to be completed in that double lesson. I'm thinking I will actually collect them. Maybe I'll come up with a time when I'm going to collect them from you. But just so then people who have been keeping up with the work and doing the work, they can see how they've been going, and if you were to have an assessment on that, if you've retained that information that we've been learning. Alright? I think I'll give it a formative grade. So it won't count towards your end of term grade, but you will get something that goes on sector and just tells you how you went with it. Alright? Alright, so this is the last bit of new content related to ratios. And we're going to look at proportions. Could I just get an indication if anyone's watching from home? Are you able to see what's happening? All good? No response. Oh, she could? Alright, cool. Alright, so we'll... Basically what a proportion is how equal two ratios are to each other. So that might not make a whole lot of sense at the moment, but hopefully in a second it will. So a proportion is a statement of how equal two ratios are to each other. So, for example, we might have some ratio AB, and we want to know if it's equal to ratio CD. So these letters are just generalizing potential ratios that we may have. Now we can also remember write a ratio as a fraction. So this could also be written, or we can write this using fractions. So remember that ratio AB can be written as A over B, and we might say is equal to C over D. Again, at the moment this might not be 100% clear where I'm going with this, but we'll do a couple examples and then you'll see why it's useful. So we can use cross multiplication to work out if a pair of ratios are in proportion. Alright, so I'll show an example of what I'm talking about. So we want to determine whether the ratio 6 to 9 and 24 to 36 are in proportion. Did a couple girls have to go to immunisations now? It's almost 10 o'clock. You can head off now. Yeah. So, now I'm recording this so after you can watch it. Alright, so remember we can write any proportion in fraction form. So I'm going to write these proportions, 6 to 9 and 24 to 36 in fraction form. So 6 to 9 can be written as 6 over 9. And we're trying to see if it's in proportion with 24 to 36. Now notice above I use this term cross multiplication. Now, I don't know how many people have seen cross multiplication being used before. So this may, for some people, be new. Maybe for other people, they've seen it before. But basically, if you've got two fractions which are equal to each other, what we can do when we're cross multiplying is we can multiply the top number on this side by the numerator on this side by the denominator on that side, and we can multiply this numerator by this denominator. This is what we call cross multiplication. So if I was to do that, this 36 comes over to this side and is multiplied by the 6. So you could say 6 times 36. And then on the other side, we're doing a cross multiplication of the 9 and the 24. So 9 times 24. And what this allows us to do, if these products are equal, then we can say that those two ratios are in proportion. So 6 times 36 gives me 216. And 9 times 24 gives me 216. So since that cross multiplication, since 216 is equal to 216, guess what I can say about those two ratios? They're in proportion. So therefore, ratios are in proportion. All good. So, our next example. This is another application where cross multiplication can be useful. So find the value of A. So A is an unknown variable. This is a bit of algebra. In the following proportion. So the proportion is A over 3 is equal to 6 over 9. So I've got these two ratios. I'm told that they're in proportion. So if they're in proportion, when I do this cross multiplication, I know that those two products will be equal to each other, and that will allow me to determine what the unknown value A is. So when I'm doing a cross multiplication, remember this numerator gets multiplied by this denominator, and this numerator gets multiplied by this denominator. So this will mean that 9 is multiplied by A. So 9 times A is equal to 6 times 3. Alright, so I went that times that and that times that. That's that process of cross multiplication. Then I'll leave the left hand side of the equation as is. 9 times a is equal to 6 times 3 is equal to 18. And then again, a bit of algebra. If I want to get rid of this 9 in front of the a, basically I need to, since this is 9 times a, I need to divide both sides of the equation by 9. So that will eliminate that 9. So a will be equal to 18 divided by 9. So a is equal to 2. So that's all the new content that we're going to learn. Between now and the test/assignment that I'm going to give you on Friday, there won't be anything new. We're just going to be practicing some questions related to what we've done so far. Now the test will involve stuff related to percentages as well as ratios and proportions. Alright, remember when we do that test you'll be able to use any notes available to you, and it won't be a time thing. I'll give you a certain